Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. A major wildfire in Belgium has more than doubled in size in just 24 hours as another weekend of extreme weather brings evacuations and emergency deployments across Europe. At the same time, record low Danube levels are threatening water supplies, agriculture, and energy production, with Hungary taking extraordinary steps to keep its Paks nuclear plant operating. Joining us now to discuss the latest is Maciej Zalewski, professor at the European Center for Ecohydrology, the Polish Academy of Science. Good to have you with us. Welcome.
Good morning.
So many of these threats continue. Extreme heat, we have droughts, we have rivers across Europe emptying. I want to kind of ask, like, how much worse can it get? I mean, what's the latest right now of looking at the Danube levels, the Rhine, everywhere? What lessons are we learning out of this right now?
No, in general, the global climate changes are recently accelerating, as we see, and unfortunately are going along the worst trajectory. It means the emission is not sufficiently reduced according to the Paris Agreement, and still is necessary to make the big effort to reduce, let's say, this emission, first of all, because amount of energy in atmosphere is growing, still growing, is bigger and bigger. And recently, the consequences already accumulation, the key heat in the oceans are getting more and more visible. And because we have to keep in mind that oceans are accumulating the exceed heat. Mm-hmm. And now already we're coming when the, let's say, absorbing capacity already is getting reduced. Mm-hmm. And that's why we have to think about adaptation to such extreme situation, and sooner, better.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned about adaptation. What do you have in mind with that? I mean, if we're looking currently at water or land management, what are those things that we can adapt to, or is this already too late now?
Generally, we have done two bad things considering adaptation. It means we, first of all, accelerate water outflow through the seas by river channelization and agricultural land irrigations. Second, we were just somehow developing very modern agriculture, which is opening the field up to the horizon, which means that we accelerate wind action. And wind is playing a role like hairdryer. All the precipitation which is coming is evaporating much more faster in the open agricultural landscape than in the high complexity landscape. Means when we have a forest, tree rows between fields, and land water buffering zone between streams and fields. So that's all these things are amplifying the negative effect. Additionally, in the city, we loved in the past to make a concrete city. Now, last year, we're trying to create city as a blue-green network. We are trying to convert the threats of floods in the city into retention. We're creating lots of green space. We're thinking now about the recharging groundwater by creating the city as a sponge.
Also, in terms of adaptation, I think one thing that, let's keep on that for a moment, because also this is affecting energy, and we've seen some images there, extremely low river levels, particularly acute in the Danube. Also what's happening in Hungary, that only nuclear power plant that usually powers about a third of Hungarian electricity. 2 new barges, I believe, have been sunk to try and alleviate that problem. But just generally, not just in Hungary, but also Romania, other countries in Europe, do we have to rethink nuclear power? Is it the infrastructure that was built up for cooling? I mean, how vulnerable is this system, and what are the lessons for Europe out of it?
Well, as far as I know, the construction of a new nuclear power plant is completely dependent on the cooling system, which is water. And that's why I think we have to consider the certain compensatory measures to let's say to solve such problems, and be careful in planning in the future the nuclear power plants, which are absolutely necessary to stabilize the energy system if we go to renewable resources. However, to construct, as this is in Poland on the coast, when the sea is really guarantee full supply of cold water to cool the system and make secure this way.
Yeah. And then also, let's stay in the region for a moment there. This Orlik reservoir, water reservoir in the Czech Republic, again, very low levels, are in danger once again. I mean, also, if there's so many of these different systems, and how would you say is the coordination right now in Europe? Is it at the level it needs to be? Do European policymakers need to do more? I mean, what can governments do now effectively to coordinate this? Because it doesn't seem that this will be the last time we see such intense heat and disaster.
I think, as I said, that generally we have to keep the water in the landscape, because this is increasing groundwater recharge. And rivers are supplied to great extent during such drought period from groundwater. So if we not catch the water in the catchment by increasing complexity landscape, by building small retention, small reservoirs, but not traditional way blocking the river, but as a lateral reservoir, which means reservoir which are only catching the water which is flowing in good water quality. Because as we know, river is pulsing. During a flood, water is brown because it's flushing catchment, and this water is usually in the past was captured by polders. Now the lateral reservoir are working opposite way. They're catching only during a period of fresh water, because in this moment we are avoiding toxic algal bloom, and we have some extra reserve on the side of the floodplain in water for our, let's say, society and from agriculture. So new way of constructing this, new solution, new approach. And first of all, we have a very complex situation. We must apply complex solutions. It means based on the transdisciplinary ecohydrology, which is explaining the interplay between hydrological and ecological processes, because ecosystems are elements which are stabilizing hydrological cycle, recharging groundwater, and purifying water. And up to now in classic hydroengineering, it was completely neglected. And now is the time when already UNESCO, Intergovernmental Hydrological Program, and IHR, it is World Hydroengineering Organization, publish the policy brief, the document which is defining the framework for integration hydroengineering and transdisciplinary ecohydrology, which means ecohydrology, which is not only putting together understanding processes from the two areas of science, but also generating innovative solutions. And this testing this innovating solution in so-called demo site. UNESCO established 60 demo sites around the world, and different innovative solutions in different climatic zones are tested. And of course, this knowledge will be not sale, because UN is an organization which is distributing this knowledge to all countries which are interested in knowing this.
You mentioned innovation, and I think all these different types of various ways to implement this. I mean, this sounds like it would take some time, and you probably need also a certain amount of investment. You mentioned, curious, because you mentioned agriculture a few times, so I think I just want to ask you about that, because we've seen the devastation of fires. Obviously, it's for ordinary citizens, that's one thing, but also for agricultural sector. I'm just curious about how vulnerable we're going to see in terms of if we have drought and fires, how quickly that will translate into prices for consumers, how much of it will affect food security for us in Europe in the next few years. How bad is it at the moment?
First of all, if you mention economy, I would like to say that according to the European Commission, every euro invested in this nature, let's say, improvement by the innovative method is generating economic profit from 4 to over 30 euro. So this innovative solution, which I'm, let's say, introducing, and this lateral reservoir is one of them. They are generating much, let's say, profit, and they are, most important, very often order of magnitude less costly than traditional engineering approach. Of course, they have to be fine-tuned to the, let's say, local conditions, because completely different solution we need in Scandinavia, different in Central Europe, and different in Mediterranean region. Still, some rules, some, let's say, ideas are common denominator for development of them, testing, and this is a role European Commission, big mega program, Water for All, and United Nations, UNESCO Intergovernmental Hydrological Program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also in terms of the agricultural sector, as I said, like in pricing, that will probably be affected. Just this, your takeaway, how vulnerable are we in terms of our food security right now and agriculture? I mean, is it on a scale that consumers will start to feel the pricing and maybe some shortages over the coming months or years if this continues?
Of course, still we need adaptation. For example, not for such severe drought when already the fire appear and dramatic situation. However, there is possible to make certain adaptation. For example, quite a long time, British colleagues already were developing the map of the catchment with, let's say, potential optimal distribution of the crops. Because some area of the catchment has less precipitation, and this is well quantified by monitoring, and some area have more water, and in this moment crop should be adjusted, because we know that some crops need a big amount of water to really generate yield, and some crop are just less demanding, and that's, for example, is one of the methods which can be used and should be used. Of course, all irrigated systems should be converted into retaining system, and eventually, few days longer period of wet soil on the spring, which somehow is, let's say, keeping the farmers' tractors away from the field, are not a problem, because as we see, drought is much bigger problem.
Yeah. And we also see, unfortunately, those terrible images, but also a certain coordination, also European coordination on firefighting, also Polish firefighters and others helping each other out. So that's a good sign. But as you said, much still to do. Adaptation is the key word. We'll close it there. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate your insights, Professor Maciej Zalewski. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.